Good afternoon, and welcome to Marketing Live for Thursday, February 25th, 2016. I'm your host, Rob Zinkin. I serve as Associate Vice President for Marketing at Indiana University. And what a great topic we have today, making website redesigns less complicated, a case study of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Marketing Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live broadcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. All episodes of Marketing Live are free and accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast format on iTunes. Those podcasts are a perfect way to spend your daily commute before and after work. Today's live viewing experience is powered by Maestro, the premier marketing tech platform for broadcasters. Higher Ed Live, as always, is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Are you preparing for a website redesign? Knowing that your website needs an overhaul isn't usually the problem. Getting started is. Download M. Stoner's helpful 7-step checklist to get you started on the right path for a successful website project. We appreciate M. Stoner making today's episode possible, and also sponsoring Marketing Live today is OmniUpdate. OmniUpdate is the leading provider of content management solutions designed to solve digital marketing challenges of higher education. The company's user-friendly platform and award-winning technology empowers users to be engaged and personalized in online communications with prospects, students, faculty, staff, alumni, and the community. Achieve scalability processes through system integrations and open APIs. With more than 700 sites and 60,000 users, OmniUpdate customers experience long-term product value and satisfaction. Whether you're looking for a CMS, online course catalog, or faculty directory, blog, or email marketing solution, check out omniupdate.com. Okay, let's meet our guests, the two who are going to make all your website redesign complications go away, Claire Mockimer and Susan Evans. Claire was recently hired as Director of Digital Media to establish and lead the newly formed digital media team and strategy for the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. Before UNCSA, Claire worked with the University of Alabama Health System, managing their consumer-facing digital strategy, and she's also worked for nearly a decade as the managing digital editor of the national magazine Southern Living. So Claire, welcome. Great to have you on the episode.
Thank you, Rob. I'm glad to be here.
And Susan Evans, Vice President of Client Solutions at M. Stoner. Susan leads all consultants across the strategy, creative services, technology, and project management practices. She has 25-plus years of communications and marketing experience in higher education, first on campus at the College of William & Mary, and now consulting with colleges and universities across the U.S. Susan, of course, is a familiar face on Higher Ed Live, as well as a regular speaking at national conferences. So Susan, so nice to see you.
Thank you. You too, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Well, as I forewarned you both, I like to go beyond the bio to give our viewers an opportunity to get to know you both a little bit better. So I'll ask you to share something from your professional journey, something that has had a lasting impact on you and your career. So Claire, how about we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you gave us the heads up on that one. Like you read in my bio, I have experience in multiple industries leading digital strategy. But something that's really shaped everything that I do in my roles in any place is an agile product development project that I was able to work on while I was at Southern Living. And so basically what we did was spent 8 weeks with a small team of people, which included a designer, a developer, writers and things like that, so that we could rapidly create concepts and products for our website and test them in real time so that we could react immediately to the feedback and refine the product. We also worked with key stakeholders on this project, but it was such an amazing experience to, everybody's jobs are so busy and you have a million things going on every day and you have your hands in all kinds of different areas at any one time. And for me, in my career at that point, to be able to focus on one initiative for that amount of time, for that solid 8 weeks, was really, really beneficial. But the amount of learning I had about testing concepts and how to effectively test them really has changed the way I look at a lot of the things that I do when I'm looking at digital strategy. Most of the decisions I make, I don't make them unless I have tested some kind of part of the concept. It taught me to be very focused on analytics and to really be able to interpret them, and just gave me a lot of ways to optimize content so that it's appropriate to audiences. But most of all, I came away from that project with just a sense of listening to the audience and learning from them, and then of course optimizing our products so that they're successful when we're working with those audiences. So I think that was really an experience I felt very fortunate to be a part of, and something that has really changed the way I work in a lot of different ways.
Excellent. Well, we haven't even gotten into the case study, and I think you gave us 2 or 3 great takeaways already there, so thank you. And Susan, what about you? Something about your story beyond the official bio?
Yeah, great. It was a great question, and listening to Claire reminded me of why it was so much fun to work with her. I mean, having incredible partners is such a key part of what we do every day. I started to think, when I looked at your question, I started to think about the challenges that come with website redesigns, and I know myself managing one of those on a campus at one point, I understood pretty concretely that it's all about leading people and helping them change and think differently. And so when I saw your question, I thought about the very first job I got outside of college. It was a great first job. The people were nice to me, and the work was interesting. And these days, that's all you can hope for. Anyway, it was a great first job. But when I was leaving the job, my boss wanted to meet with me to do the typical exit interview. And he said to me, this is the first time I've said this publicly, I think, he said to me that he noticed that I was very good at getting people to do things that they didn't want to do. And he wondered if I had ever considered a career in management. And so I've taken that to heart, and as I've led projects and led teams, I think about the fact that we really are leading people, and that part of the success comes from the change management that many of these projects bring to our campuses.
Very much so. So thank you. Well, first of all, as we transition into the website, congratulations to both of you on the outstanding work. UNCSA.edu is a beautiful site, so excited to really get into the process and approach there, and glad to have the opportunity to go behind the curtain, if you will, to understand the strategy and the process. So let's start with some background, and perhaps Claire, since you came in the middle of the project, Susan, you could set the stage in terms of why was the time right for the website redesign project, and set the stage for us.
Certainly. Well, a couple of different things. One is that the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, like many educational institutions, did not have a team dedicated to the website. And over a period of time, they had made many valiant efforts to try to keep the site up to date and keep it contemporary and fresh and a great reflection of them as an institution. But they'd gotten to the point where they had a content management system that wasn't working for them. There was a design that was outdated, it wasn't responsive, and it frankly didn't reflect what you would expect to see from an arts institution. I remember the very first time we visited the campus to talk with them about the work there, I said to the team, you've got expectations that are really high from people. Not only do they want an incredible web experience, but they come with really high expectations and thoughts about what your website should look like because you're a school of performing arts. And so that was something that I thought about as I was thinking about how we kick things off. I think it was also a key time because there was a new chancellor at UNCSA. Lindsay Bierman had just joined the school and had a lot of wonderful ideas and vision for what the marketing and communications efforts would be. And so if you couple where they were as an institution in terms of investing in their site with a new leader, I think the time was right.
And then, Claire, I'm sure the timing fit into your arrival as well in terms of you saw an opportunity there to make an impact and a certain trajectory with new leadership there. So give us your impression of the opportunity and the website, the role that the website played in moving the institution forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I did come into the project a little over halfway through, but as you know, we talked about before, part of M. Stoner's project was to recommend establishing that digital media team, and I think the old website. We didn't have a content management system in place. In fact, things were flat HTML pages, and the design had not been updated for 13 years. And as I visited our campus and I met the extremely talented and passionate artists that perform here on a regular basis, as you go to a performance, you weren't getting any of the story about how amazing UNCSA is from the old website. It was a shame. It was completely hidden. And so I think, definitely with Lindsay's vision, he had an extreme laser-focused vision on beginning a website relaunch project almost as soon as he began the job. And, has always been that we need this platform to share the true UNCSA brand story and to be able to give people an idea of what's going on this amazing campus without having to set foot.
And for more background as well, how did this project fit into an overall brand strategy in terms of brand strategy work for UNCSA? I know one of the many successes of the site was unifying all 5 academic units. So if you could talk a little bit, Susan, about the larger brand strategy.
Yeah, I think, when we do our jobs right, the website reflects the brand. And I think it actually reveals the brand to many, many people who you care about. Many people who, as Claire's already mentioned, may not have an opportunity to visit you or may have certain perceptions or certain ideas about what kind of a place you are. But you have an opportunity when they land on your homepage or any of your key landing pages to give them a sense of what it's really like to be part of that community. And I think that's what we wanted to do. And I think, apart from brand, if your content is authentic, then you're going to do a much better job connecting with, again, the many, many audiences that you care most about. And I think the other thing that a website can do and the way that it's connected to brand is in higher ed we talk a lot about the brand almost as if it's a mission statement or a vision statement. And really to be more successful, your brand is the benefits that people get from engaging with you. So we need to turn our messages around a little bit, and rather than talking about us and who we are, we need to translate that into benefits for the people that are going to be part of our community. And I hope we've done that with the UNCSA site.
It's terrific. And you mentioned high expectations from the stakeholders and many stakeholders. So let's hear who all comprise the various stakeholders and how were they meaningfully engaged during the process.
Claire, do you want me to start or you start?
Well, I can start, but I definitely want you to contribute, Susan, again, as I came in halfway, through the project. But UNCSA established a web committee, and the really amazing thing about that committee is it involved people in all different areas of the school, in every conservatory, and also on all different levels. So we had the chancellor was a part of that committee, but we also had managers and directors and even assistants. And I think, at first it seemed like a lot of people to work through some items, but that group, worked very closely with M. Stoner on designs and moving the designs forward, and as well as the governance and the strategy decisions. And it was also really, really important for the message of what was going on to be going back to all of those different areas of campus. And I think that was really valuable. And the group was led by our vice provost, Ward Caldwell, who managed the project until I came on board, but did a terrific job of keeping them meeting on a regular basis and really corralling feedback, and I think working well with M. Stoner.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Ward, Claire, because he is vice president of student affairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has, all of us in higher education know that if you want to have a series of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting days, you're in student affairs. And if you're the vice president of student affairs, that's what it's all about. In fact, we nicknamed him at one point Meeting Man. But I was so impressed by his ability to stay engaged with the very small details and the very big vision of the project. And having somebody on campus who could translate what we were doing, and as Claire mentioned, keep people informed. Because, we started the project by involving a lot of stakeholders because we did discovery. We spent a couple of days on campus. We met with students, with faculty, with people who worked in admissions and student affairs and the many, many areas and all 5 conservatories. So there was all this momentum and enthusiasm that came from that visit, and people were super excited about when the new website was coming. And then, you could potentially fall into a situation where we leave campus and a lot of work is being done, but people don't know what's happening. So the team did a really good job of keeping the campus informed, letting people participate at the right times, and helping them give really constructive and effective feedback.
And you both mentioned that the site, the intent of the site, obviously to reflect the brand, to tell the brand story, a story that had not been told to its fullest potential. But tell us about the other goals or eventual goal, what you wanted this new site to achieve. And also I want to hear about how in these the discovery work and the interviews, how you work through really aligning with the stakeholders there in terms of the ultimate target audience. Because with that community, you have prospective students at all different levels with your various programs, but then in the arts community, you have people who attend the performances. You have a lot of different constituent groups. So the goal of the site, beyond what you've talked about, and then aligning on target audiences.
Yeah, so I'll start. But yep, as we went into this project, we had very clear goals for the site. Really building that website that's going to tell who we are, what we do, why we matter. So really all about brand storytelling. But that it had to represent all 5 art schools. It didn't need to, have more engagement on one area than the other. Something that is really important that M. Stoner helped us with, and is obvious in our navigation, is addressing all the different levels and audiences in a really clean and clear way. So we are able to look at the different topics of conservatories, as well as there's a little sub-menu that allows you to navigate by level. And there's also the ability to dig in deeper and navigate by the type of audience member you are. So that one piece of design on our website and technology really helps to establish those audiences. And it was a complete shift from where we were. The IA, another goal was the IA, the information architecture, is something that Susan Evans did a terrific job on for us, and is completely visitor-centric. So it is set up so that when a user comes to the site, it's more intuitive for them to figure out where they need to be, and they don't have to fumble about. And that was a huge shift for our campus, and before things had been set up in a much more departmental manner or chart manner. And I think that's something, like Susan mentioned before, just kind of communicating that change and explaining it has been something we've worked a lot on. The content strategy was a huge goal, so establishing our team, the digital media team, so that we can maintain the site, and also start the content strategy. So the focus of that is really on shareable content and keeping that story going, keeping UNCSA in the conversation. And there are a lot of things that we were able to do with M. Stoner to work on, including sharing buttons on different feature pages and things like that to really help us in that aspect.
Right.
I was just waiting if you wanted to jump in, Susan.
Oh yeah, I would love to. I would love to. You know, colleges and universities are complicated places, and if you've done any communications with parents or alums or just the general public, you know that we use a lot of terms that people don't understand, and the academy is sometimes hard for people to wrap their heads around. So if you can imagine combining that with a conservatory, I mean, a conservatory is an equally complex thing to understand, and it's a complex thing to explain to people. And we had a situation where we had not just one conservatory, but 5 conservatories. And we had a situation where we had not just a university, but a high school. And we had a situation where we had not just a high school and a university, but also many, many students who participated in programming within the community at UNCSA. So I mean, I know most people don't get excited about information architecture, but I was super excited about the possibility of figuring out how to present all of that in a way that was easy to navigate. The other thing that I think we forget is that information architecture is also part of brand strategy. When we did focus groups on campus, what we heard people say is many people think we're a high school and they don't know we're a college. Many people think we're a college and they don't know we're a high school. So by placing that navigation the way we did and organizing the way we did, not only was it easy for people to find things, but they actually became aware that the institution was what it was, that it included 5 conservatories and that it included many, many academic levels. So again, I know not everyone gets super excited about information architecture, but I really was excited about sinking my teeth into something like this and combining it with beautiful visuals. What was the rest of your question? Sorry.
Susan, if people see your information architecture, they'll be excited about it.
Yeah, sure. But Rob, tell me, I was supposed to talk about stakeholders and goals of the project. And
goals and audience. So yeah, you've done great.
One other small thing, because we've talked a few times about Claire and her team, and that is we're often in a situation where a client says to us, we want something amazing. We can take care of it. It's going to be wonderful. We want it. We want it. And we show them amazing. And sometimes they say to us, whoa, okay, we said we wanted amazing, but we don't have the team to sustain that. So give us a little bit less amazing because we have these realities of staffing. And I think, I've never been to a campus yet where somebody told me, give us everything because we've got all the people and all the money we need to make it happen. But I will say that I think the team at UNCSA really rose to the occasion. They knew that they had the goods. They knew they had visuals. They knew they had photography. They had video. They were really certain about their ability to keep that storytelling up because their site is going to require it. So in addition to investing in the team that would make that happen, they really did want the website they needed, and they weren't afraid to take a risk and to build something that they were going to have to invest in and sustain.
It's terrific. Kudos, Claire, to you and your team. I want to follow up one more question about the stakeholders because I find the process fascinating when you have to get broad representation and engagement in a project, especially one of that magnitude. But it also gives you an opportunity to educate colleagues about the role of marketing, the impact of marketing. And so I'm curious with, again, a project of this size and scope, to what degree did your faculty colleagues and other administrators across the university, did they come along in terms of once it was all said and done, they had a much better understanding of marketing and a value in terms of their perceptions. They truly valued marketing as a result of going through and participating in this process.
Absolutely. I think, it's a process that we're still going through. Part of the strategy was to really continue to establish that group of core digital contributors that are across the faculty and staff across campus and even students. And so I think it's definitely an ongoing thing. I think it's always a challenge to communicate out on a regular basis, especially things like results, and my team is doing as much as we can to really continue those conversations and keep that going. I will add that as far as the visual content goes, it was a tremendous campus-wide effort, and we were able to have a couple of a video shoot and a couple photo shoots before the launch of our website, which I think were absolutely critical to the impact and the success, but leaned very heavily on the creatives in these conservatories to make that happen, and faculty members and students really all rallied together to create these photos and these videos. And UNCSA has over 360 performances a year. Our campus is a busy place, so it is very hard to get the right people in the right place at the right time for some of these shoots, and it was certainly a challenge, but one that all of the time investment that we put into that has completely paid off because it really was critical to the success of our site impact.
And then speaking of the faculty, we know academic pages are absolutely critical but can be a challenge, and would like to hear about how you address those. And I particularly love the faculty pages and how those are written in first person, and you typically look at faculty pages and a faculty bio, and that personality doesn't shine through, but you've done a tremendous job of making that happen with your people there.
The faculty pages were also something I feel were really critical to the site, the success of the site launch. At one point, we were going to launch those as part of phase 2, but I think that it would have really felt like something was missing from the site. One of the biggest things that we did was we had all of the faculty come in for professional headshot. And before, we were just putting images. Some schools maybe had done that, some hadn't. There was not a consistent look to all of our faculty pages. And I think that was a tremendous experience. Overwhelmingly, people were excited to have that done, and then when they saw them on the page together, they just looked fantastic. But the bio pages are, there's the ability for us to really add a lot of interactive elements. We can embed video, we can add sound clips, we can link out to social media profiles, and so I feel like we've just kind of scratched the surface on them. Some of the faculty members had more content to put on there than others at the very beginning, but we also had a serious campus-wide effort of updating bio information. So we restructured the way that the page would be updated so that it was a little bit more scannable, put content into subhead sections, and then worked with everybody to get them to give us an update on their bio. And it was hard to get people to make time for it, but I think once they saw the impact and the benefit, they were able to do that. One thing, I have to speak to functionality just a little bit, but that in OU campus and with Stoner's help that we were able to set up is to be able to populate content throughout the site dynamically based on tagging. And I think that's a huge advantage. So within each program page, I'm able to tag the faculty that are appropriate to that page so that they are associated with the content. And it's just a lot easier for a small team to keep a website fresh and updated when you have the ability to feed in dynamic content. So the faculty pages were huge. Another big content effort that we undertook pre-launch was the program pages, the individual pages that talk about the programs offered here. We didn't have consistent information about them across the site. Some schools had information, some didn't have really in-depth information. And so instead of again, trying to put this on faculty members or admin people in those schools to write content for their pages, I had people on my team write the pages, and then we were able to review the content with them. So we were able to basically create a massive amount of content at one time so that it would be ready for launch. And those pages have a lot of potential for us in the organic search field. So what we're looking at now that they're established is how we can optimize them and continue to monitor their keyword ranks so that when people are just looking for programs that we offer, we start to be the ones that come up. We're in the process of adding the interactive elements to those pages. Currently they're very text heavy, but we are getting student work from faculties that we can add to that, and also video, and trying to make them as engaging to a prospective student as we can.
Yeah. This is where, Rob, too, I would like to add on just that Claire is way ahead of herself on this one, because this, we talk to prospective students all across the country, and you probably know there's research now that the top destination for college students or prospective college students when they're looking at an EDU site is a list of majors and minors. The students want detail about academic programs, and most of us in higher education are still struggling to make that happen, to produce the kind of information and content that students have an expectation of seeing. And what's really interesting about this is lately, as I've been speaking with prospective students, they're saying all the things that the research tells us, but they're also saying that they want even more. Who's surprised, right? But I was on a campus recently where a young woman was talking about studying biology, and she was trying to decide what school she wanted to go to, and she said, I want to know about the courses, I want to know about the faculty, I want to know what I'm going to be doing while I'm there, what internships might I do, what could I do when I graduate, and then she paused and she said, I want to know what it's going to feel like to be a biology major. So, people really want to know what their experience is going to be, and I think what the UNCSA team is doing with their site is really incredible. At first blush, you might think, all right, nobody goes there trying to decide if they want to be a ballet dancer or a tuba player. I mean, you make that choice before you get to a conservatory. But knowing what it will be like to be in that environment, in that artist colony, amongst all of those really wonderful, creative, talented people, is coming alive on those pages, and I think that's going to really pay off.
And I do hope viewers are taking the opportunity to check out the site, uncsa.edu. It's great. We're also tweeting out a great write-up, a great case study that is on the mStoner site that also sheds light on the project and the process. So again, terrific work. Congratulations. I've enjoyed looking through it and learning about the conservatory as well. Also, beyond the discovery process, I wanted to hear about any other research that may have informed the work or any testing along the way. What role did research play beyond the initial discovery process?
Yeah. Claire, do you want me to start on that one? Yeah. Okay. This is a lot of this work took place before Claire arrived, when we were working more closely with Ward Caldwell. One of the things that we did for UNCSA was some design concept testing. So as we began to think about the visual design for the site, the user interface, how it would look and feel, of course we were informed by the research you already mentioned, the focus groups and the stakeholder meetings that we held on campus, and we had lots of great data from those. But we wanted to see if the 3 design concepts that we were that we had created, that we had iterated on, that we felt really good about, were concepts that would connect well or get great response from prospective students. And here's another example of where I think UNCSA did a really smart thing. We did survey folks to get impressions about the design concepts, but those we surveyed were prospective students. So we went directly to the target audience. I think sometimes we end up surveying other audiences of sites, and I'm not saying that that doesn't yield useful results, but I do think that if our target audience is definitely primarily the prospective student, that those are the folks that we need to get in front of as we're doing testing. So we had 3 wonderful designs. We used an online tool to allow us to get some feedback from prospective students about whether or not the design felt right to them, whether it was useful to them, whether it represented what they were hoping to find when they looked at a conservatory website. Often when we do this kind of testing, the results are pretty straightforward, and a prospective student group really likes one concept over another. In the case of UNCSA, there was a lot of great feedback about all 3 of the concepts. We had some data that allowed us to make some changes and to iterate a little bit, but it wasn't data that helped the institution make a decision without some of their own judgment included as well. So that was a really good place to be.
And then Claire, anything additional on the research piece that you wanted to provide?
Well, I reviewed the write-ups that we had when we started working. I think mStoner did a terrific job of really putting those concepts out there. And one of the things is the concept testing was done outside, but then some of the material I was able to review had comments from everyone on the web committee,
right.
and current students as well. And so I thought that was really interesting to hear about, initial impressions and what people thought of different segments of the page. And so, I think that the designs were, the concepts for the designs were definitely, tested very closely. So I thought that was really cool.
Well, certainly an enormously successful project, and this may be an easy question because maybe there were none in a perfect world, but I have to imagine along the way there was a challenge or two, and interested to know about what exactly were some of those obstacles during the website redesign, and then how did you work through those?
Well, I feel like we needed a lot more time than we anticipated, and I'm sure anyone could say that no matter how much time they have, but it was pretty intense when we got right down to time to build the website. So that was a challenge. We were prepared for it, which I thought was great, through advice from mStoner about how many people we would need. They gave us tips about how to manage the migration process that really helped us prepare for that huge challenge. And ultimately we were able to complete launching the site with all the items that we wanted to for this phase. And so I think that was a challenge that we were able to overcome with some preparation and amazing, guidance from M. Stoner. Like I mentioned before, it is such a busy campus, and so it was a huge challenge to find time to shoot the video, to shoot the photography, to get faculty time to update the bio pages, to get review turnarounds on the program pages. It was a campus-wide effort, and everybody really pulled together to amazingly make all of those deadlines. But it was certainly a challenging situation to be navigating that constantly for probably the 6 months before we launched.
Yeah, I would. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was curious as well, your perspective, knowing that you work with lots of institutions across the country and deal with challenges that I'm sure are ones that pop up regularly, but also as the web space evolves to an evolving set of challenges. So very interested in your perspective on the topic of challenges and how you work through those from your position.
Yeah, I think that's actually changing. I've been doing this for a while, from the time of leading a project like this on my own campus through, probably, 50, 60, 70 clients in my time at M. Stoner. And it seems to me like the challenges are shifting a little bit. For a while the challenge was, are prospective students really the primary audience for our site? Do we really need to invest all this time and energy in our website relaunch? Is it really that complicated? Does it really take that much work? Come on, how hard could it be? I mean, that was kind of the things that you heard. You didn't mention the word brand when you were on a campus 5 or 6 years ago. That wasn't something we talked about. We might talk about reputation. We might talk about identity, but we certainly didn't talk about brand. It was way too business or marketing focused. So I think the challenge is, it's almost a good news, bad thing. One of the challenges is faculty members understand brand strategy. Students understand the importance of communicating with prospective students. Everybody on a campus understands the importance of a website. It's a 24/7, always on, always evolving communications channel. So I think expectations become high because people want to be part of the process and they want to make sure that it represents the institution well. I think Claire articulated it, in a really direct way, and that is time. It's funny though, I think she's right that you wish you could have more time, but I wrote down, and I have evidence before we started, that one of the things that I think was really great about the project was that they did not rush. Now, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have liked to move more quickly, but there were times when they sort of wanted a couple of more days, or they wanted another week, and it was always for good reason. It was always because we've got a lot invested in this, and we want to really think about this, and we want to make sure that we can make good on what we're committing to. And so not going too slow and not going too fast and really making the most of this effort is going to position them for such better success, and actually created a better project and a better product because people were involved, even though it took a little bit of time.
And can you give us a sense, even a ballpark range of what the timeline did look like? Because I'm sure there are some colleagues who are in this position of needing to embark on a website redesign and setting some realistic expectations for what it really takes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it sometimes takes a little time to get your leadership to fund a project like this. And sometimes that gets overlooked, that when we think about timetable. So I don't know exactly in the case of UNCSA, but sometimes it can take several months to identify a budget, to put together a request for proposals, to review proposals from companies like ours, and then to make a selection about who you want to partner with. But we started the work with UNCSA. We arrived on campus in about mid-September of 2014. So the project actually started before that because there's work that happens before. And the site launched in the beginning of December in 2016. I mean, 15, sorry. We're not in December yet. So a little over a year. And actually, that's pretty typical. For most of our clients, the timeline is somewhere between 10 and 14 months. And people sometimes roll their eyes when you hear that long timeline, but if you want to involve your campus and you want to get feedback that helps you make something better, that takes time. That's not a fast process. So it's time well invested usually.
I second that. Yes, you have to do it right, and that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'd like to point out about timeline that maybe more of what I was speaking to is we're doing all of that preparation work, design, and M. Stoner was doing the HTML coding, and then we were able to get into OU Campus in October before the launch of the site in December.
Right.
So we originally had, I think it was 6 weeks allotted to build pages on the website. We ended up pushing that back a little bit so that we could get all the content that we wanted onto the site in time for launch. So that's something it's something that is really interesting to think about in the whole scope of the project, that, there was that real intense time period at the end that was just building content.
Yeah, and that's where I'll say this publicly too, Claire. You might laugh about this, but I think I advised you not to launch with as much. I know I did. I advised you not to launch with as much content as you launched with.
Yeah, and several times.
I did, and I was wrong in your case. I was definitely wrong in your case. I mean, there aren't a lot of great examples of people who've been able to accomplish what you accomplished in such a short period of time. And you were absolutely right to put the pedal to the metal and make it happen, because it made a huge difference in the launch of the site. And I'm so glad I was wrong about that, because you really, really showed that it can be done and that it's worth the work that it takes.
And for anybody listening, I recommend listening to Susan Evans when she tells you that it's too much content for launch.
Well, at some point you just want the project to be over, right?
Yeah, but I will say, so that was really critical for the launch success on our campus. And one of the things we ended up having to do is really go to that MVP, a minimal viable product model for the internal facing pages of our site. And so because our technology was so outdated for our website, we were able to gain a great amount of usability and analytics and insight by simply migrating that content as it was. And so that was a huge effort, but it's definitely one that has paid off immediately.
I want to follow up on your point, Susan. I think it's a great one. I've seen that shifting perceptions as well, in terms of having target audiences and internal colleagues who are more brand savvy than before and ever before. At the same time, internally, there's an expectation of clear results and having to show the investment has paid dividends for the institution. So I want to hear about the ROI. Certainly, it's only been live for a little more than 2 months, but going forward, what things will you be pointing to show that this has been a success and this is driving key results for us and what the institution needs to achieve?
It has only been a few months, and the analytics data is very new, but we're really starting to see some tremendous year-over-year numbers, and it is, we have seen the amount of referrals from social media skyrocket. In February, we were 1,200% increase year-over-year, and that's huge. That's huge for our content strategy, and that's huge for the audience that we're trying to attract to our website. So really keeping the focus on different methods that would attract prospective students, potential donors, people to come to our events. We are seeing high engagement numbers. So a lot of the I think the latest number was that the engagement was up over 50% year-over-year. So they're consuming more page views and definitely more pages per session. We're seeing, of course, with any redesign, you see a small dip in organic traffic, and we've seen that, but we're compensating for it in so many other ways. So we're seeing, of course, that increase in social traffic, but we're also seeing starting to see growth even as early as February. So we're seeing growth in visitors, and we're seeing continued growth in page views and engagement. I would want to add that just outside of the data, the website redesign was completely so well received by our campus community. It was something that everyone felt that they had a part in and that they're extremely proud of. And I think that's part of the reason we're seeing some of the social success too, is that students and faculty members and staff members are seeing stories they like and they're sharing them easily with their audiences on social media. So, I mean, we're seeing really, really positive numbers.
And Susan, from your standpoint, and maybe not even just specific to this project, but again, the larger higher ed landscape, I'm sure the ROI discussion is a frequent one that you're having. So how are you navigating in terms of helping institutions measure the things that they need to measure? And
yeah, well, that's definitely something that we do uniquely with each client that we work with. I mean, the early part of our strategy and discovery around that the internal team wants to be able to address with a project like this. And sometimes it's tied to enrollment and yield and tied to awareness and some of their brand strategy goals. But often it's tied to things like having an up-to-date and fresh and contemporary website. And that's not just during the project. In other words, they want to put in place systems and tools and processes and governance and people to be able to ensure that they can sustain, again, that 24/7 primary communications channel that's so important to them and all of their audience, with all of their audiences and all of the people that they're trying to influence and attract and engage. One of the things that I'm really proud of from the standpoint of ROI for UNCSA is the investment in a team. I mean, I have the pleasure and the opportunity to talk to leaders across the country on many of our campuses, and they often say to me, several presidents have said, what do I need to do? How do I get a great website? And it's almost like they want to know what the secret sauce is. And I always tell them the secret sauce is people. So you need talented digital professionals who get up every day and they come to work and they think about, what do we need for the website today? What is the story on the website? What am I going to do on the website? What am I going to measure on the website? What am I going to pay attention to? And that's the secret sauce. That's how you have a great website.
That's great. And with this new digital team that you have there, Claire, what's next? We know that a website project is never done, is ongoing. So what's next at UNCSA?
A lot. We are in the process of, we have not stopped. We're in the process of establishing our content strategy. Video is a huge piece of that. We are exceptionally lucky that we happen to have a film school on campus. And I've been able to work with the Dean Ruskin, who's dean of our film school, of course, to set up a process in which we can hire film students to shoot videos for the web. And this is really important because it is an approach that is repeatable, it's affordable, and it is something where they can be very nimble. A lot of times we may only have 30 minutes to do an interview with someone, and it's not something that you would want to have to hire a full film crew to come on board for the full day. So I have very nimble crews that can come in and do a quick 30-minute shoot and then get in there and get out. One of the things we're starting with the video strategy is some low-hanging fruit. UNCSA has high-caliber guest artists on campus every day in every conservatory. And so initially, we are trying to get time with all of those people, with those experts in their industries, so that we can do interviews with them, so that we can align their voices with UNCSA, and so that we can show prospective students the type of people, in addition to their extremely talented faculty, that they will be able to learn from and interact with when they're here on our campus. So I think video strategy is really important for us. Our content strategy is social media first. We are thinking about things that will resonate in the space, especially on Facebook. It continues to be a top source of referrals for us, and things that will get people ultimately back to our site and through one of our conversion goals. So talking about thinking about content that aligns UNCSA with trending news, or that can propel our audience in the social spaces so that we can have a greater reach to funnel them back into our content and into our site.
Well, this has been informative, and as we wrap up, I do hope it's been enlightening for other higher ed colleagues who are either approaching this sort of process or in the midst of this sort of process. And I'd like to hear from either of you any final thoughts that you might have in terms of looking back, reflecting on the success of this work. Any other takeaways that could be useful for colleagues who are embarking or in the middle of a website redesign?
I have to speak up for content. Content has already come up. Claire's been talking about it a lot, but it is the one thing that I think we still are sometimes underestimating the time that it takes to create, underestimating the importance of it on our sites. And of course, I understand that the nature of content is changing, that we're much more visual, but even producing photography, video, words on a page, all of those things take particular talent and skill and time, and they are the thing that people come to our websites for. They are the thing that makes the the design come alive. And as much as I love the design that we helped create for UNCSA, I understand that the content that's on that site, some of which our team helped write, but a lot of which was produced on campus, most of which was produced on campus by Claire and her team in terms of video and photo assets. Those are the things that are in the platform. The platform is awesome, but that content is really what matters.
I would have to completely underscore, everything that Susan just said. I mean, I think the investment in visuals is a huge takeaway for me from this project. One of the things that we were able to do is even invest in some new forms of media. So one of the things that we did with our film school was create a series of cinemagraphs, which are very similar to Jeff's, but that gave our website a little bit more visual edge and impact, and it was a little bit surprising. We know that web audiences like delight and surprise. So that was something that not only was it really amazing to be able to work with our film school on that, but and in the wee hours in the last few weeks of implementation, M. Stoner on the technology side squeezed in the ability for us to embed those on the pages. I mean, I feel like went above and beyond so that we could host different kinds of media. I think that any amount of time you spend on your visuals and your content is going to generate is going to be critical to your success. I would say that monitoring analytics early and regularly has got to be the core of any digital strategy, and being able to start to track your year-over-year growth and really looking at what people are doing on your site and always monitoring how the audience is using your site. One of the things we added, in addition to the Google Analytics suite that M. Stoner helped us set up, it was a heat map tracking system. So now we're able to look at everywhere that people are clicking on the page, but also how far down the page they're scrolling, which has been a really interesting test for us as we're really developing our content strategy and looking at long form for short form content and how far people are getting down the page and if they're consuming what we're putting out there. So I think that really investing in that content and then looking at the analytics is really important. And then from the UNCSA experience, it takes a village. You need to reach out to the talented, creative people that are on your campus that can contribute to a project like this, and really give everyone an opportunity to be invested. I think that was probably the best thing that we did was really bringing in leaders from each of the conservatories and from liberal arts, and also across our staff and faculty. So.
Excellent. Well, this has been a terrific discussion. So Claire and Susan, thank you so much, and kudos again to you and your teams for the outstanding work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks, as always, to M. Stoner for making Marketing Live possible. Be sure to get reminders about this and other episodes by subscribing to the Higher Ed Live newsletter. You can browse the archives at higheredlive.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. I'm Rob Zinkin. Thanks again for tuning in to Marketing Live on the Higher Ed Live Network.